Yeah, let's jump in to keep it open or close it out, and we start with the New York Jets. Justin Fields against the Panthers. Listen, Justin Fields, you're going to get some big weeks, and then last week he got 4.9 fantasy points. That's a season low for a game he has finished. But Matthew, Justin Fields, as we see right there, still stays in the top 10 quarterbacks, a much better matchup.
A very nervous top 10 ranking for me. I'm not going to lie. Here's the thing about Justin Fields. I think Connor, we discussed this on Monday, feels like he's got a much shorter leash than he did at the beginning of the year, that if he struggles here, that this is a ranking that is not without trepidation, because he could get yanked for Tyrod Taylor at any time. But I am keeping it open on Justin Fields, and the reason I have him as a top 10 play this week is entirely matchup based, right? No team in the NFL is lower in pressure rate this season than the Carolina Panthers. They are 32nd in pressure rate. And so Justin Fields, who was under siege the entire time against the Broncos, in fairness, some of that was on him. He held the ball for like 12 seconds, right? At some point, even though the Panthers can't get pressure, if he sits back there 8 billion years, at some point they're going to get to him. And so I'm hopeful that the coaching staff has worked with him this week saying, like, dude, get it, throw it away, or start running a lot sooner. You can't just sit there forever and ever and ever, especially in a week in which you might not have Garrett Wilson. All that said, he's got 35% of the Jets' red zone rushes this season. That's the third highest among quarterbacks. You're not particularly scared of this Carolina Panthers defense. I also think, and this sounds insane to say, but there's just no way he could be that bad again.
No, that's famous.
The famous last words, but it was it's a London game. They're playing the Broncos, one of the best defenses in the NFL. Those games are always weird. Now he's back in America on a normal schedule, playing the Panthers. He has prior to that meltdown been a fairly good fantasy quarterback this year. We can debate whether he's been a good NFL quarterback, but he's been a good fantasy quarterback. All three of his games prior to last week, his three completed games prior to last week, he'd scored at least 25 fantasy points. I am reluctantly keeping it open on Justin Fields. I think he is a QB1 this week, a low-end one.
Yep. So real-life football-wise, which informs fantasy here because he may not make it through the game.
Right.
So Justin Fields is great in week 1 against the Steelers. He has been bad ever since then. Why is he still the starter?
I think a lot of people are trying to figure that out because Aaron Glenn didn't want to even entertain the question, right? And it felt like the obvious game to go to Tyrod Taylor. I think they didn't want to make it feel like these losses are all on Fields. You could put the London game loss on him, but they've had a lot more problems than just him leading up to that. And then 2, they see more upside in him, whether you agree with that or not. They like the designed run game. They don't use it enough, in my opinion, but they like the designed run game with him. They like that he can extend plays more. Tyrod Taylor, it's not that he lacks mobility, but he's older now. He's almost 37 years old, so you don't get the same mobility. So that's how they see it. I think, though, your fear of starting him in this game is that if things go wrong in the first half, I do think he'll be benched.
But you know what, at this point, I actually, you're going to think I'm crazy here, Connor, but I actually agree with Coach Glenn because, and this may have been the thinking or maybe not, they got this guy, they're paying this guy $20 million a year. They need to figure, Justin Fields has never had a full year with a complementary team around him to prove that he can be a franchise quarterback. Now, he got some time in Chicago, didn't have a lot of talent around him. Now, you can say, well, isn't that the case here with the Jets? Yes, it is. But the point is that I think the Jets, if I'm the Jets, I'm like, listen, man, we ain't going to the Super Bowl with Tyrod Taylor.
Right.
Nothing good happens from, maybe we're a little bit more competitive, maybe we win a few more games. So maybe we win, 6 games this year instead of 4. Whatever. This is a rebuilding year for the Jets. And I think that, this is my guess. You have the inside sources there. I have none. But just looking at it logically, even if they won that game and they're 1-5, they're highly unlikely to make the playoffs in today's NFL. So at this point, it's just this is just about learning, can Justin Fields ultimately be our guy, or are we starting over next year? What good comes from starting Tyrod Taylor? The only thing that comes from that, and Connor, you would know better than me, is if they've lost the locker room.
Right.
If he's lost the locker room and
that's why you make a move.
That's why you make a move.
That's exactly why you make a move. I think where he went wrong was I think Fields didn't have it, and you knew that in the first 2 quarters of the game last week. I think Glenn thought he couldn't go to Tyrod Taylor for the second half or the fourth quarter and go back to Fields, and I don't agree with that. I think you could have went to Tyrod for that game. You needed 25 yards to kick a field goal to win the game, and you win the game, and you can go back to Fields. I don't agree with that. it seemed like Glenn, and the way he even spoke to this was, I didn't want to press that button right now and go to him. But if this keeps happening, and no Garrett Wilson in this game could be looked at two different ways. It's like no Garrett Wilson, that's really bad. But no Garrett Wilson, Fields has to run more in this game without Garrett Wilson, which is his whole value in fantasy right now. So it's a tricky one for sure.
Yeah. No, I think that's logical. I think also, as bad as the Jets have been, and they've been very bad, they really should have beaten the Steelers. But on the underlying stats, they outperformed Miami as well in that game. They easily could have won that, and they should have beaten the Broncos. So there are worlds. Now, you don't get to win every coin flip game.
What about
they really should have gone 2-1 there.
How about again, it was sort of fluky with the block field goal, but the Buccaneers game too.
Right.
You
needed one stop.
You needed one stop. Yeah.
So that's part of his thinking as well, is like we've been close at times, even if Fields isn't always leading the charge. Once again, you don't have to agree with it.
Yeah.
But it's a thought.
But you understand the thought process. Right. He's and he's a first-time head coach too, and so first-time head coach dealing with the New York media is a different animal than more experienced coaches or coaches in different markets. You know what I mean? Like you've got animals like, Sports Emmy losing Connor Rogers, that are just out there like grilling you left and right. It's brutal.
You know me,
absolutely.
Pressing Aaron Glenn every week.
Philip wants to know Fields or Penix for the rest of the season. I'm still going to say Fields.
Because of the running.
Because of the running. Like quarterback-wise, like in terms of just who's a better NFL quarterback,
it's not even close.
It's right. But who, for fantasy, I would still go with Fields.
Also,
but it's a closer conversation than it was a week ago, for sure.
It's just it depends on what you think the percentage chance that Fields is the starter.
That's
the rest
the problem.
Of the way, right? Because Penix, barring something absolutely catastrophic, Penix will be the starter the remainder of the season.
Correct.
Justin Fields may not be the starter in the third quarter against Carolina.
This is true. But
it's got to be now. I mean, Panthers and Bengals are the next two games. You got to get going here.
Yeah.
So
1,000%. Anyway, I'm keeping it open just to close the loop on the bit here,
Sure.
Jay.
Yes. Hold on.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate
Super
that.
smooth.
I crave your passive aggressive praise.
Yes.
Thank you.
It will always be.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest RotoWorld fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.